All right, happy Monday. Here I am again, coming back at you. Here's set notes for today, and also talking about this week. So today should be Monday. If you're looking at this on Tuesday, well, that's your fault. You should be looking at it on Monday because you have a vocab quiz tomorrow. So I will post up some things about what we're doing for the week soon enough, and attach some vocabulary reviews. It's on you to look at that and look at the words and to study. So anyways, today you're going to do set notes. Tomorrow, Tuesday, vocab quiz. Wednesday, you got it off, no class. Thursday, note set, and Friday, I'm sorry. Thursday, a guided reading, and Friday, I'll probably give you some time to study your states and capitals, even though we can't take it yet. I still want you guys to take some time to study. So that being said, tomorrow, again, you need to come to class on time because I'm going to drop that vocab quiz in right from the get-go, and if you're late, you might not finish it, and if you don't show up, I'm not going to give you a grade on it. So you guys need to come to class every day like you're supposed to, because some of you guys skipped out on class on Friday, didn't come like you were supposed to, and so you didn't get to take your quiz on time, and it was late. So you're losing credit on that one. So that's your own fault. You got to stay on top of this stuff. So make sure that you do. So vocabulary quiz tomorrow. Look in this stuff today because I will have some stuff in there, a review and a list of your words, and we've covered them all. They're all in your Quizlet, so there shouldn't be any surprise on stuff that is actually on there. But be on time tomorrow. So your note set today, as I can pull it up, is called Britain Fights Back. Now this is a continuation of our stuff from the other day where we talked about the Boston Tea Party and the reaction between the colonists and what the British did, especially with the Intolerable Acts and the First Continental Congress. So the British aren't too happy with the colonists right now because you had it's all give and go. It's things that are going back and forth, back and forth. Then you have the Boston Tea Party, and then you have the Intolerable Acts. The Intolerable Acts lead to the First Continental Congress. First Continental Congress leads to Britain's reaction. So First Continental Congress was really important because it was one of our first ways of acting really like a true government. So in the case of Britain's reaction, they're saying, we're going to laugh at the demands that you have. Because they're going to laugh and laugh, laugh, and laugh. It's Mr. Fane right there. No, probably close to Mr. Anderson. But anyways, so their reaction is to basically laugh at these demands because they're still under the auspices of the colony or the crown. So, you can make all the demands that you want, but, I'm the king. I'm going to be able to tell you what I want you to do. So you better follow through and actually do it. So at this point, dramatic pause. At this point, the colonists start to form militia groups called Minutemen. Well, they get that name because they are ready to go in under a minute. Very creative name, I know. So these were basically your farmers. It wasn't like trained soldiers. It was really anybody, townsperson, farmers, anybody had a gun that was ready to go. You'd have a gun at your door, you'd have a bag at the door, and so that if you were called to go and fight, you grab that bag and you're off to fight, which is again why you're called Minutemen, because you're ready to fight in under a minute. And so it would look like, people from all walks of life, like you can see in this picture here down below. It doesn't matter who you are or where you came from. If you're willing to fight the British, come on in and join us. So shot heard around the world. Now, I will include a link for this one on your video. So don't try to hit it here because it's not going to work, and I'm not going to play it over the computer. Just watch it. You'll enjoy it. It's a catchy little tune from when I was a kid or even further back than that. But they actually do a really good job of talking about this next thing, which is called the shot heard round the world. And so I'll give you the facts on it. So it's called the shot heard around the world, not because someone literally could hear it all the way over in like Spain or somewhere, but because the reaction of what happened or the surprise of what actually happened really did get people's attention all the way around the world. Because here we have the rinky-dink little colonists taking on the big British Empire at the time period, and people are like, yeah, colonists are going to win. But, it's like, how dare someone actually fight England? It's so, sorry, it's a long Friday already. So anyways, so this takes place in Concord, Massachusetts. It's located near Paw, which is Pennsylvania. Massachusetts. And you see his little picture here of the British over here on the left, a little bridge, the Old North Bridge, and the colonists on the other side fighting right there. That guy's not sleeping, he was probably shot. But anyways, it starts with a guy named Thomas Gage. And Thomas Gage is the governor of Massachusetts. Now that means he's the royal governor of Massachusetts, as you can see in this picture here. So that means he basically answers to the crown. He's not really there for the colonists. Well, when the colonists start saying that they are going to, they're going to form militias, it kind of catches his eye, and he says, or catches his attention, catches his attention, and he says, we need to kind of put a stop to this before it becomes any kind of real problem. So what he does on April 18th, 1775, he decides that he is going to take away the Minutemen weapons. Now, it doesn't mean he's going house to house, although he did still have writs of assistance. He's not going house to house, but instead he's going to go to the arsenal, which is located nearby, because it's actually the Battle of Lexington/Concord, and take those weapons. Now, an arsenal is any place that has a pile of weapons. It could have like dynamite or gunpowder, things like that, because those things are explosive. You don't want to keep them near anybody personally. So he wanted to beat the militiamen or the Minutemen to the punch, and so he sends men to go to that arsenal and take those weapons away. He sends 700 men. Not like seven, you know, a small little group, but 700, and so that's actually quite a bit. So it tells you that this guy actually took that really, really seriously. So the colonists knew that something was going to happen. So what they did is they sent out messengers to go along the way and tell people that the British were coming. Actually, that's a falsehood. So if you ever watched any kind of show that says that, it's not real. Why? Because, well, everybody was basically British, and it would be confusing. So what they might have said were the redcoats were coming, because the redcoats were the terminology for the British at the time period, because they, dramatic pause, wore red coats. There you go. Yeah, big old target by wearing a coat. So two famous guys went out on this ride. I mean, you had many others. Paul Revere is the main one that gets the acclaim, because there was a poem called The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere, which came out later and was famous and made him out to be the main writer. Now, Paul Revere was a founding father. He was pretty important for us, but I feel like he gets unduly gets the full credit when, in fact, if you read up on him, he didn't complete his ride. He was stopped and told to go back home. The guy that should get a lot of claim but does not is William Dawes instead, because he also rode out and finished his ride, going out to warn the people of Concord. So going out and telling people, ring a bell, saying, prepare yourself, get the militia. Here come the redcoats. They're coming to take our weapons away. And so people got prepared. And so what they did is in Lexington, before they even got to the arsenal, 77 Minutemen met the British. Now, go back again. That number is 700 on the British side, 77 by the Minutemen. They met the British. Some shots were fired, and then it killed 8 of those Americans, or 8 of those colonists. Now, if I'm going to go back here, I'm going to go back to this picture here. The British had to cross this bridge called the Old North Bridge to get into where the arsenal was. And so they, what in the world's happening here? And so they the colonists had met the British at this Old North Bridge and was able to hold them off. It's a very similar story of Thermopylae last year. If you don't remember that one, Battle of Thermopylae was a water sea battle, but also it was the 300 story, where the Spartans, the Greeks, held off the oh boy, I just had it held off the big Persian army. That's it. It's like Arabian army, no, Persian army at the little pass with 300 men, and they were able to hold them off long enough for Greece to get more people to come fight. And also for some of the people to retreat as well. So if you could hold this little bridge and fire back at them, even though they have 700, they're not going to be able to take that. And some of you are probably like, well, we could swim across. Not really, not so much. So anyways, what happens then is the British do retreat. The British retreat, and as they retreat, all those Americans were forewarned. The British were on their way, the Redcoats. They come out and start taking pot shots at the British as they return back home. You're like, it's kind of cheap that they're doing that. Well, you know, it works, I guess. And they end up killing 300 of those 700 men as they retreat. So even though, if we were to say what really started the American Revolution, you could go back and say the violence started with Boston Tea Party, Boston Massacre. But really, this is it, because now you are taking on British soldiers in uniform and killing them. Uh, and really, this is a step that you really can't come back from. So at this point, obviously, the British want to get word of it back overseas. And it's going to be a little while because I don't have telegram or pigeons, anything. Once they find out, the British are going to be upset. So the Second Continental Congress happens. And these guys kind of beat the British to the punch because they know something's going to happen. They know that the British are going to be really, really mad that this happened. There's going to be retaliation in some form. So these guys get together in Philadelphia in May of 1775, and they beat the British to the punch. They know that what they have has worked so far, but it's time to upgrade a few things. And that's what this is. So if we're saying Second Continental Congress, it's Continental Congress version 2.0. So they are, if you're looking at this in terms of how to remember what it was, it's an upgrade of like literally everything the First Continental Congress was about. So it takes place in the city of Brotherly Love, May 1775, including some bigwigs such as Thomas Jefferson, John Hancock, and Ben Franklin, who are all going to be important here in dealing with the British, but also getting help from the French. Thomas Jefferson and Franklin's story at all, and writing some things that came up like the Declaration of Independence soon enough. So they all come together, more than just those three guys. Those are your big names. They decide they're going to form an army. Now, this is an upgrade from the first one because that one formed a militia. So those are just, kind of like amateur soldiers. This one's the professionals. So these ones are going to be expected to be trained, to be full-time, to have weapons, to have uniforms and supplies and things like that. So you're upgrading your army. And then you need a leader. You need someone who's going to kick their tails and get them into shape. And that would be George Washington. I look like I'm riding a horse now. No, George Washington, that guy instead. And that's a wise choice because, well, that guy had led armies before, had gone against the French before, and he was well respected among his community. So they said, hey, Georgie, will you come out of retirement, basically, because, well, he was kind of retired, and come and lead our army? And he says, yep. And so we call that the Continental Army because, well, it's within the continent. So anytime you hear the word Continental Army, that's our army, the United States. And they paid the army with paper money. So it's important because now, again, professionals get paid. Professionals are well trained. They have the supplies and the things that they need. They have a solid coach, if you want to look at Washington that way. But this really improves things because now, well, it can be a job. It's not just a volunteer thing at all. And so they paid them with paper money. Now, okay, this maybe isn't the exact money that they used, but it was the best one that I found online. I like it, the United States of Shut Up Fool. Thank you, Mr. T. But anywho, they basically acted as a government. And where I would say that the first one did too, this one even more so. And really beating the British to the punch, getting ahead of things, and knowing what's coming up that you're going to have to deal with. And so they're really kind of forward thinking here because you got to get it done before the British send word and then come back and make things worse. That now you're just like, all right, let's just prepare for worst case scenario. And they actually did. So at this point, the last thing that's left really is the people who are in what would be the United States, the colonies. You got two sides. There really is no gray area here. You're either a patriot or you're a loyalist. You're one side or you're the other. So it's really dependent on people to choose. So a patriot, this is where we would actually watch the movie The Patriot, but we're not in school. But I am going to show it to you when you come back because it's a great movie. And it really it goes into what we're talking about here. So it'll be movie time when you come back. But a patriot is a colonist who would fight for independence. So when we think of patriots, we might think of Tom Brady or New England or whatever. But really, we think of the United States. We're all patriots, rah, rah, America. But it's really, a patriot can be anybody. Anybody in any country that loves their country and would fight for it. So that's the side we're going to prefer people would be on. However, there are some people who are on the other side who were loyalists. And these were colonists who were loyal, or they really should be true because I'm using the word to define the word. Colonists who were true to Britain and the king. So why would people do that? Why would they stay loyal or true to a king that they don't like? Well, first of all, not every colonist didn't like the king. Some of them liked them. Some of them led a great lifestyle. Some of them had some opportunities to increase their wealth and do other things. But here they decided we're going to stay loyal to the king. We're going to be true to him. And so some of those people might end up being spies, or would provide some money or housing or whatever to the British. But so not everybody in the colonies was against the crown in some fashion. Very similar to at times the split that we have here in the United States as well, for one side or the other. And God forbid you're actually in the middle, like a lot of people I know, and you don't really want to pick a side here. You just want to, live your life and be good. But anyways, so the loyalists typically included the wealthy, mostly because they had a fear of losing money or losing their status, because they couldn't be guaranteed of that if the colonists could actually win. And another group we have to think about is the enslaved Africans, and the Native Americans too. It's like, what side are they going to choose? Well, they're going to choose side the Native Americans, for the most part, the British, because they hate the colonists. They hate the fact that the colonists are coming over and taking all their land. And you say, well, wait, aren't the colonists British? So shouldn't they hate both groups? Well, the British came up to them and said, we promise to give you land back when it's all done. And, well, they were crossing the fingers and lying anyways. Once again, the Native Americans kind of picked the wrong side. But African slaves, they wanted to fight for their own freedom. But there was not a guarantee necessarily that you fight for the colonists that you're going to be free and we're going to stop slavery. That certainly did not happen. And the British did, again, use that to try and, I guess, convince some Africans, blacks, to be on their side too, back and forth. So it's really a difficult position to be in there. And you can also be, I guess, forced to fight on one side or another as well. So we'll talk about those things in society and which way that's going to happen. Even when we get in the Civil War, that becomes an issue as well. So as I said, Native Americans too, they feared the colonists would take their land. So they got to pick one side. And as I said, they're probably going to pick the British. And lastly, for those people who are sitting on the fence, they go to the other side of the fence. 100,000 colonists ended up leaving during the Revolutionary War period. They went to Canada. They basically ran away, took their stuff with them, and ran, because they didn't want to be in the middle of this, and nor did they want to pick sides. So really not a lot of room for gray area on this. You're either for us or you're against us. You're either a loyalist or you are a colonist. And again, you can be condemned, on either way, whichever way you're going to go. So it's not like, you did have to make a choice, and you literally had to live with that. So, all right, that should be the note set, I do believe, other than the running away part from our video from last year. So what you should do at this point is you should finish your note set. You should make sure that your chart is done. Chart is finished. If you need to look up Treaty of Paris in 1783, do it. It's in the index. It's not too hard. Make sure your notes and guided readings are all caught up, and study for your study for your vocab quiz tomorrow. That's it. Make sure you get here on time and you're ready to go, and let's turn your stuff in. So just under 20 minutes. Have a good day.